foreign influence, especially in San Cristobal. How you feel that, like, how people use the Zapatista image and how cool it is to have a Zapatista coffee shop or a laundromat or a gallery space that in the end is like sending 2% of the money that they make, and they are just having these like comfortable lives in a place where it's very poor, no? As you said. And the other for Laura, I'm from Spain, so I very related with everything you say. And I was wondering, when you talk about common, I participate now in a photography festival. I'm a photographer in Foto España, and they asked me for sign my photos as a copyright, but all my photos are under copyleft. So I was wondering what kind of solutions are things like that when you're working with big corporations that like signing your work as a copyright. How can I do that? Like I already sent them an email, but you have like any ideas about that?
So in terms of the influence or the kind of role and presence of foreigners in San Cristobal, I think it's a little bit, I think it's mixed, because on the one hand, I think, you know, the Zapatistas are happy when their kind of message gets out, and so if that means, you know, they're on t-shirts, they're on the names of cafes, whatever, like, that's better, right? It's good. On the other hand, there clearly is an element of kind of consumerism, and when we were talking about, you know, capitalism, and, you know, capitalism will happily put Che Guevara on a shirt if it will sell that shirt, right? So you do see this, you know, obviously. And one thing that just stood out to me, I never met Comandante Ramona. She passed away in 2006. But she lived in sort of a different region from where I was. But there was a quote from her where she talks about, I get sad seeing people sell my photo because that's not why I'm doing the struggle. And she's, you know, I think you had mentioned, Laura, when I said who was the one Zapatista people have heard of. The one woman Zapatista, if you've heard of someone, it's probably Comandante Ramona, is if you go to San Cristobal, they sell these little dolls, like the male doll is Marcos and the female doll is Ramona. And so her take on that was like, that's not what the struggle is about. You know, so I think both of those things are true. And I think similarly with the role of sort of outsiders in general, and I would put Mexicans who are not from those communities in the same kind of category as foreigners. That on the one hand, there's a really deep, important role for solidarity, for building across sort of cultural bridges, and that can be so deep and so meaningful and so powerful. And there were people from all over the world in Chiapas. There were a lot of people from the Basque Country. There were, you know, there were Italians. There were people from the U.S. There were people from Mexico City. And you know, and the sort of bonds between all those different groups was really intense and powerful. And I think for me, Zapatismo very much lives in what each of us kind of took home. On the other hand, you do get a lot of kind of outsiders coming in with these projects that don't represent the kind of, or don't respect the leadership of the Zapatista movement. And the Zapatista movement over time has become much more clear about, we're actually not going to accept your project just because you come here and you want to do it, right? In 1994, there was much of an open sense of anyone's welcome because they needed the resources, they needed this sort of presence to protect them from the kind of the violent response from the Mexican government. But over time, it's been a very, very interesting shift to watch them exert much more their leadership and say, you know, if you want to come work in our communities, you need to do it according to, you know, what the communities decide that they need, and that is very much part of that element of, you know, community self-determination. So when, you know, projects would come in and say, we want to build a library, and the communities would say, you know, we don't need a library, we need latrines, because, you know, don't get me wrong, I love libraries, my mom is a librarian, libraries are very, very important institutions in the world, but a lot of folks don't read and write, and their kids are dying because they don't have, you know, help, like the, you know, system of hygiene in their community, and what they need is latrines. You know, it's just like, so, but I feel like they've really kind of exercised that dialogue with outsiders in a really healthy and good way that kind of addresses like the historic power imbalances even between solidarity people coming in and thinking they know best for you, you know, in a community that's exerting, no, we actually are in control of our own destiny. So thank you for the question.